Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Matt Orford and I'm happy that you're here with me. Today I'd like to talk about Azure Automation Tasks, which at the end of 2020, which is where we're at right now, is currently in preview still. So do be aware of that if you're watching this around this time, but obviously it will go GA pretty soon, I would imagine. Now, an automation task is something that Microsoft in Azure have created that is on a per resource basis. So it's something that you can set on a virtual machine or on a storage account or on a resource group. And the whole idea here is that these are automation tasks specific for each resource that you can set up. And there's ideally going to be a big library of these, I'd imagine, down the track of common tasks that you want to do on a per resource. So on a virtual machine, as we'll see in the demo, that might be stopping a machine and starting a machine. For a storage account, which we'll see in the demo as well, this might be deleting blobs that are older than a certain age, for example. And on all of the resources at the moment, you can see a monthly spend alert for those as well. So it's still pretty early days, but I wanted to show you what they look like. Under the hood, this is actually Logic Apps as well. So these are built as per Logic Apps are built in your region and however many times your automation task gets triggered. So do be aware of that. And you might be wondering, there's Azure Automation, which are the automation runbooks that you can write in PowerShell and Python. And now there's these automation tasks. So the automation tasks are probably more basic, and ideally there's going to be a big library of them. Like I said, I'd love to see something from the community, kind of like there has been with ARM templates. You know, over time, people can write and publish these things and then you can consume them. But the idea is that these are per resource. So if you wanted to shut down all of your dev machines and you had, tens or hundreds of them, for example, you probably wouldn't use this. And that's where you might look to use something like Azure Automation instead. So let's jump into the demo. We'll take a look and see what you think. Okay, here we are in the Azure portal and I'm looking at a virtual machine that I've deployed, just called it VM01 because I am super creative. And down the left-hand side here, if I scroll all the way down, you'll see this automation tasks in preview here on the left-hand side. Now, notice towards the top at the middle here, the status of this machine at the moment is stopped. So I did provision it and then I've gone and stopped it. So let's click on tasks and we'll take a look at these. Now there's nothing here at the moment, so we need to add a new task at the top. And you can see for the virtual machines, they've got a couple of templates here. So for every resource that's supported at the moment, you can send the monthly cost for the resource. And for virtual machines, you can set up a task to start a virtual machine and also to power off a virtual machine. So like I mentioned at the start of the video, I'd love to see this become more of a library, maybe even a community one where people can write their own Logic apps and then publish them as automation tasks for specific resources. But for now, let's go ahead and do this one to start a virtual machine. Now, what we need to do is set up some authentication here so that this automation task has the authorization to go and do the action that we want to do. So I need to create a connection for the Azure VM. So I'll click on create here. And then it wants me to sign in to create the connection. So I'll click on sign in and use my account. And that's gone and created that connection there. We can see that is successfully connected. And also if you want this to send email alerts, you can connect it through to Office 365 as well. So I'll create another connection there for Office 365 too. So we'll sign in there and my account again. Perfect. So next up is the configuration, and this is where the actual meat and potatoes of the task is, if you like. So we need to give this a task name, and as it says here, this task name cannot be changed after the task has been created. I'm just going to leave mine as default there because that doesn't matter too much. Now for the start time, today is the 29th here, and it's currently about 9:40 a.m. So I'm going to set this for 42 a.m. And the time zone, I am way down. Actually, I can probably wonder if we can filter that. No, we can't. All right. Tasmania Standard Time. Now, the interval is how often we want this to happen. So I might say every 24, and the frequency. So I might say every 24 hours I want this to happen. And I'll get it to notify me. And I'll drop in my email address there for it to notify me at. And that is it. That's all we need for this specific task to go and set it up. So I'll create that down the bottom. And that under the hood will go and spin up a Logic app for this as well. So while we wait for that to happen, let's go on the ellipsis over here. And if you wanted to change the task, you can edit it in line, which is just going to take us back to that same configuration wizard that we just went through. So if you've got a minor change to make, you can do that here. I'm just going to cancel out of that because you can also choose to open it in Logic Apps. So this will go and open up the specific Logic app that's been spun up for this. And you could go into the designer and have a look at the task that's been created. So we can see that we've got a recurrence at the top here, which is for that every 24 hours. And as I scroll down, we can see the task that it's going to do is start the virtual machine, and then it will notify on failure or notify on success, depending on the output of that start virtual machine task. So if you wanted to, you could come in here and absolutely modify this. You could create new steps, or you could modify the steps that are in here. And there's of course the Logic App code view as well. So if you know what you're doing with the code and you wanted to make any changes here, you can absolutely come in here, you can template this up, and you can make modifications here. Now, one thing that I did notice that Microsoft do recommend is that if you want to make changes to the task itself, is to go ahead and do a clone of the task. So back on the overview tab of the Logic app, you can come up to the top here and click on clone to clone a new Logic app. You can make your changes in the clone Logic app and then run it manually to make sure it's going to do what you want. And then you can come back and make those changes to the actual task that is linked to the resource. Now, making changes to the Logic app under the hood isn't going to change the template. So if you then went to another virtual machine to do a start VM task, it is going to use the default template that Microsoft provide, not the one that you've modified by changing the underlying Logic app for the one that you've actually modified. So I just wanted to make that clear. So let's go back to VM01 up the top here, and let's do a refresh there. Let's see if it's actually happened yet. So we under runs, we can go to view, and look at that. We can see that at 9:41, we've got a succeeded status there, and the duration was 12.49 seconds. So let's click on that, and we get some more information here as to what actually happened. So this is the typical Logic app run that you get whenever you run a Logic app. So we can see how long each step took. So it took 11 seconds to start the virtual machine, and it looks like it was successful because we've got a true expression result there, and it has probably gone and sent me an email. Let's tick the box there. So that is all looking good. And if we go back to VM01 and scroll up to the top and go to overview, we can see that the status of that is now starting. So that has absolutely worked. And that's a pretty neat little feature to do little, ad hoc automation management tasks on a per resource basis. So something else I wanted to show you quickly, if I go back to my resource group, I've also got a storage account here. And again, if we scroll down on the left-hand side, right under automation, there's another tasks section here. So I wanted to show you, if we'll click on add quickly here, we'll go through this one quite quickly. This one has just got the send monthly cost for resource task and the delete old blob tasks. So if we wanted to delete old blobs, we can go into here, and this has already got a connection set up as well. So we can skip through to the configuration. And again, there's just a few inputs that we need for this one. So the blob container name, I'm just going to call it my blob. That doesn't actually exist, but it should be fine. And let's say that the expiry was every 14 days. Let's go ahead and create that one. And then we'll come across and open that up in the Logic Apps. And what I wanted to show here was that this is actually, if it's set up, we've gone and got an API connection, which is for the Azure Blob for this specific storage account. So this API connection is actually using the storage account key to connect in. So before with the VM, we needed to provide our credentials to make that connection, but this here is using the storage account key. And actually, if we look at the code view as well, I think somewhere in here, here we go down the bottom. So under parameters, we can see we've got connections, and it's got a connection to Azure Blob, and it is specifying the connection ID, which is the API connection that got created for us automatically as well. So I won't go ahead and run that one because I think you get the idea. Plus, I don't actually have any blobs up there in that storage account anyway. But what I do want to show you, I've just opened up another tab here at the top, which is to a Microsoft Docs article about this or about these automation tasks. Now, this table that we're looking at here in the middle are the currently available task templates in this preview that's out right now. So you can see here, there's not a lot, but like I said, hopefully Microsoft are working on, a lot more of these. And like I've mentioned a couple of times, I'd love to see this opened up to the community with some sort of library that you can choose from that other people have gone and created. And for today, that is pretty much all I wanted to show you. So go and have a look at automation tasks in your own subscription. Do be aware that there is a really, really tiny cost each time they trigger because it is using the Logic app pricing under the hood. So please just do be aware of that, although it is really, really cheap for each Logic app run. And let me know what you think of it. I would love to hear from you. I hope everyone's doing well out there and is coming to a nice close for the end of the year and looking forward to what we've got coming in 2021. Bye for now.